This is how Tom Segura's ego has come full circle.
Oh, but I'm struggling with rent this month. Figure it the fuck out, okay? Like, don't make my life be a problem for your life.
Tom and I are not bright when it comes to confrontation.
I don't go, what's the smart way out of this?
No, neither do I.
If you've been on YouTube in the last 6 months especially, and you've perused through the comedy niche just a little bit, you would know that Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer have had a sizable portion of their fan bases turn on them and become avid haters of their podcast titled Two Bears, One Cave. Today's video in particular will focus on the path that Tom took and how it led to some of his biggest fans starting to become cold towards him. But before we dive into this, I want to make something abundantly clear. I am not a hater of Tom Segura, and this video is not meant to be a hit piece on him as a stand-up comedian. From what I've seen of Tom's stand-up comedy, it is very funny and it's clear he's worked very hard to become as good as he is. I haven't met him in person, but I'm sure that he's not the same guy in real life that he portrays himself as online and on stage. On this channel, I try to microdose the negativity in my content, but sometimes it is very difficult to ignore, especially when many other channels within my niche are covering these topics ad nauseum. With this video, my goal is to simply document Tom Segura's behavior over the last year and what it was that made a lot of his longtime fans become bitter towards him and really start to hate the attitude that he portrayed on podcasts. And then recently it appeared as if he had attempted to do some damage control by addressing the tweets he made at the airport a while back. We will get into this later on, but if you're interested in finding out what all took place that made people start to turn on Tom Segura, and then how he recently addressed the situation and how I think people will react to it, then you've come to the right place. I will be discussing all of this in today's video, so without further ado, let's hop right into it and get into the nitty-gritty details. So to begin with, as I mentioned earlier, Tom Segura has become one of the most successful comedians, working alongside his friend and business partner Bert Kreischer. These two guys do arenas and tour all across the country, so it's not a stretch to call them two of the most successful comedians alive right now. Along with that success came a lot of money when the fruits of their labor fully came to fruition, and when the money really started to stack in their wallets, specifically Tom and Bert would become increasingly vocal about it on all the different podcasts they do. There's actually a clip of Bert telling a story about Tom and how Tom talked Bert into buying a Rolex watch when he wasn't sure about it. I'll show you a small clip here.
I go to this great watch dealer in Vegas. You know her, I think. You think you bought a watch from her. Chappelle buys watches from her. This is how you get the green light, is that you know the person, and then they go, all right, bring out the inventory. So I send Tom a text at this Rolex place in Vegas.
Story checks out.
And I text, and I say, a picture of the watch, and he goes, are you getting it? And I said, I don't think so.
I have trouble spending money.
I have trouble spending money. Tom sends me a very heartfelt text. Hey, man, you're busting your on the road. You work nonstop. You're gone 2 weeks at a time. You have 2 podcasts. It goes on in like this really heartfelt text. You deserve to treat yourself every now and then. This is an affordable treat. Do it for yourself. And so I go back, I buy the watch.
So I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this story being told. In fact, every now and then, it's probably nice to hear that the people you're supporting are able to live a great life for themselves and provide that for their family members as well. However, these conversations would become increasingly more dominant in Tom's podcast appearances as time went on. With this evolution came a portion of Tom's audience who would send messages and emails to Tom saying to stop talking about being rich all the time and to just talk about regular things again. When Tom heard from these people, he basically went on and said,
stupid poor people, I have more money than you.
No, but seriously, Tom didn't just laugh it off or try to empathize with these fans. He actually took to them with an iron fist, exclaiming how if what he's talking about bothers them, then they're being and thinking like a loser, and that their mindset is what is keeping them poor. Just in case you haven't seen this rant, it went viral a while back, and I'll show you a snippet of it right here.
Every time we talk about like a watch or a car, I'll get a bunch of messages from losers that try to tell me that I'm making them feel bad about their situation. You're in control of your own situation and your own feelings. So don't put it on me that you feel bad, that I have something that, oh, but I'm struggling with rent this month. Figure it the fuck out, okay? Like, don't make my life be a problem for your life. People are going to talk about things that you don't have for the rest of your fucking life. So you can decide like, okay, I won't, fine, don't listen to me, don't listen to that person anymore, but you have to control your own feelings, okay? It's not on other people to make sure they don't talk about a topic that makes you feel bad. All right. Like I lost 20 grand gambling this weekend. Go ahead.
So obviously there's a lot to unpack here, but I think most people can understand why this attitude and ego that Tom displayed here led to quite a few of his fans turning on him. I don't think every single point he made was incorrect in that video, but I do think the delivery of it came off as quite arrogant and prickly to a lot of his fans. Even for the fans who weren't complaining about him dunking on poor people, this probably left a bad taste in their mouth. One of the main reasons cited for this rubbing people the wrong way is the fact that Tom Segura's father, Thomas Segura Sr., was actually a vice president at Merrill Lynch, which if you don't know is an American hedge fund that made a shitload of money. So Tom Segura came from money in a household that was very well off, so a lot of his fans complained about how it's easy for Tom to say things like, just work harder bro and change your mindset, that's all it takes, when Tom himself has never truly financially struggled the way the average American struggles nowadays. That's not to say that you have to struggle financially to have an idea of how to make it somewhere, but his fans did not appreciate the pompous delivery of this message. Surely he could have worded it better or empathized with his fans on this podcast episode, but it's quite possible that Tom has never really felt what it's truly like to be broke the way most Americans nowadays are. When you compare this type of attitude to someone like Shane Gillis, who is widely praised and loved amongst comedy fans, it's a night and day difference. Shane and Matt, despite their monumental success on their podcast and stand-up comedy tours, have sustained their likability, down-to-earth nature, and humility, and this allows for their audience to continue to grow despite the fact that they're on the same level as comedians like Tom and Bert, who've seen their hate grow in addition to their praise and financial success. The same thing could also be said about comedian Theo Vaughn as well. The humility allows them to stay likable and relatable even as their success continues to balloon and climb sky high. Money is an incredibly sensitive topic, and it's understandable when you acknowledge the fact that the average American in 2024 has well over $100,000 in debt. Now, Tom is known for having an unlikable persona on stage that kind of plays a heel character similar to Anthony Jeselnik, but in this podcast, a lot of people didn't take this as a joke and were really turned off by it. However, if this was the only instance of Tom being pompous on his podcast, it probably would have been written off or blown over. However, things would take an even darker turn when Tom would be at an airport many months later, and he would go on a rage-filled diatribe on Twitter over a minor inconvenience he went through while unloading his bag. If you haven't seen these tweets, I'll show them to you now so you can get the context of the situation. So Tom went through the airport and experienced a pretty innocuous inconvenience, and he made this series of tweets at American Airlines and also some of his fans who didn't take kindly to this rant that he went on. And he may have gone overboard just a little by calling this woman a C-word for likely just doing her job. Now, some people have speculated that Tom was just jawing and talking shit similar to his onstage persona, but some people also think he was being dead serious and just wanted to blow some smoke over this issue he encountered. I'm not really sure where I stand, but for me personally, if I encountered something like this, I would probably avoid Twitter and just try to make a funny bit about it on stage if I really wanted to. That's just my personal thoughts though. He did make one tweet that I actually 100% agree with though, and it's this one where he tells you that you should subscribe to my channel and that my content is dope. While you're at it, go ahead and like the video also and turn on post notifications if you're finding value in the content you're watching. I appreciate you guys watching the video. Anyway, after this rant took place, it would eventually be completely wiped off the face of Twitter. Whether Tom was embarrassed by this barrage of tweets at American Airlines and his fan base or not, or he just thought the optics were bad, isn't 100% known, but it was too late because the internet had already laid into Tom and dealt him his fair share of mockery over this situation. All of the most popular comedy criticism channels talked about it and documented this rant, and this really led to a lot of people having a completely different view of Tom Segura after they saw it. I also think that this type of behavior from Tom, Bert, and others has led to an explosion of these type of channels like Podcast Cringe, Comedy Enforcement, Retroactive, Too Lazy to Try, and many more you could probably list off. I will certainly make another video on that type of content and its importance and explosion on YouTube in the future, but for now let's stay on topic. A lot of these channels continued to lampoon Tom over this Twitter rant, and after his rant about poor people on his podcast in the past, this was just another strike in the eyes of the public that contributed to the negative perception of Tom Segura being completely out of touch. These two strikes, among several other things, led to some of Tom's fans becoming big-time haters of him. And now when you see Bert and Tom do anything together, it's really common to see the comments full of people who are just roasting them and also mocking Tom's attitude towards poor people, like a few of these comments you see are. Then a couple months ago, Tom went on Bobby Kelly's podcast called You Know What, Dude, and at one point in the podcast, you can see Bobby ask Tom a question about the cars he owns, and you can visibly see Tom get a little uncomfortable and freeze up. It's quite interesting. I'll show you what that looked like here.
When are you going to buy another? What kind of car you have?
What kind?
You have cars?
Yeah, I
How
like
many
cars.
cars you got? You all right?
Yeah.
You know what, Tommy?
This was absolutely hilarious to see. I'm 90% sure that Bobby Kelly knew exactly what he was doing here, and it made Tom feel a little uncomfortable. Nothing shady or mean, but it's just a funny little moment, a funny little rib created by Bobby Kelly putting Tom on the spot. A lot of Tom's older fan base who turned on him got a kick out of this moment as well. Furthermore, for a long time, Tom would just continue to ignore the growing hate in the comments section on the Two Bears One Cave podcast, and many people thought he would never address the poor people rant he went on when he was at the airport on Twitter. However, he recently addressed this entire situation months after the fact, and it appears as if he did some damage control in this clip. I'll let you guys decide if you think it's genuine reflection or just some damage control. I'll show you the clip of him addressing this now.
Tom and I
They know.
Like, Tom and I are not bright when it comes to confrontation.
I don't
put
go,
it
what's
that
the
way.
smart way out of this?
No, neither do I.
Full force right in there.
How much trauma can I create with this moment?
Yeah, and then it goes on for days, and it's just a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. People call me. Everything all right? You know?
Yeah.
People don't realize how happy I was during the airport tweets, though.
See,
Like,
that's the thing. You're always happy off screen.
They were like, tantrum. I'm like, tantrum? I was sitting in a first class seat sipping a Diet Coke, just going like, la, la, la. You know, like there was no like.
Sounds like you were
assault.
living your best life.
I was having a
to
good
be
time.
honest.
Yeah, but
Everyone's worried about you.
Everybody else was like, "Are you okay?"
So Tom really tries to claim that he wasn't even mad when he went on this Twitter rant because he was flying first class and drinking pop like nothing was going wrong at all. Then on top of all of that, Christina talks about how a lot of her and Tom's friends were calling to see if Tom was all right. It seemed like a lot of people were genuinely concerned that Tom was having a full-on breakdown because of some minuscule error on the flight attendant's part. I guess the good news here is that Tom does have the self-awareness to understand that he could be better when handling criticism on the internet. Joe Rogan would say just to not read comments, but I do think that sometimes you could genuinely learn something from reading a couple comments. It was at least cool to know that Tom understands he probably didn't handle this, and likely other things as well, the greatest way it could have possibly been handled. It seems like when he ranted about pores and washcloths, his ego was a little out of control, but now I think he may have realized he went a little too hard and a little too far with this clip, and also based on how he acted on Bobby Kelly's podcast as well. Maybe things could get a lot better for him, and he could win some of the audience he lost back. That being said though, I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. I have nothing against Tom personally. I could see how many people don't like what he tweeted and said to his fans. That being said, I don't really keep up with that many podcast episodes, so I never really had the opportunity to be upset by Tom. I get why some of his fans turned on him, but I also get where he's coming from a tiny bit, despite him not expressing it in the most polite or articulate way. Despite the increase in hate towards Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, they're both obviously still killing it. I'd love to hear what you guys think about Tom Segura and his evolution from his meltdown a while back to now admitting he doesn't handle criticism in the best way. Did you gain any respect for Tom making this confession and addressing the situation? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All in all, this was how Tom Segura's ego has come full circle. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the end. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications down below, because that's a free way to support the channel, and you're helping the community grow brick by brick, one subscriber at a time, and I think we can hit 100,000 subs at the end of the year. So if you want to support my channel, please subscribe down below and join the family today. You can also check out my Patreon page down below where you can see exclusive content like how I make all my videos. You also get to see every video early, and you get to play a leading hand in the direction my channel takes. Shout out to all the patrons really quickly. We got Thomas Gill, Jay Murray, Crosstown, Ethan, Karsten Breivik, Eduardo Ramos, Darren Lester, Jack Morgan, and Olga B. Thank you guys so much for being patrons. I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video all the way to the end. Once again, take care of yourselves, your friends, your family, and your loved ones. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.